The shocking media meltdown that's defined Graeme Souness's career continues to this day, as football's most confrontational pundit refuses to soften his approach even at 71 years old. His harsh words for Manchester United, from ownership to players, are just the latest chapter in a lifetime of conflicts, controversies and clashes that have made him one of the most divisive figures in British football. Souness's most recent fury has been directed at Manchester United's ownership, when reports emerged that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the Glazer family planned to terminate Sir Alex Ferguson's lucrative ambassador contract as part of cost-cutting measures. Souness was incensed. "What a disgrace! Where on earth is respect?" he wrote in his Daily Mail column, claiming the owners have embarrassed themselves with such a move. According to Souness, penny-pinching on a figure like Ferguson, who built the club's modern success, showed a profound lack of understanding of Manchester United's values and history. He's been equally scathing about United's transfer business, describing it as mismanagement on an industrial scale. Souness was particularly upset by the club's willingness to sell homegrown midfielder Scott McTominay for around £25 million, while spending over £100 million on older players like Casemiro. He called this an atrocious piece of judgment that perfectly exemplified the club's decline since Ferguson stepped down. But this anger isn't new. It's the continuation of a pattern that has defined Souness's entire career. Long before he was criticising players on TV, Souness was establishing his reputation as an uncompromising, often controversial figure on the pitch. His dominance as a Liverpool midfielder came with an edge that many found difficult to handle. As legendary Tottenham manager Bill Nicholson once noted, "Arrogance, that's what Souness had." This supreme self-confidence helped make him a brilliant player, but rubbed so many up the wrong way throughout his career. Even as Liverpool captain, he bred resentment among teammates. The captaincy handover from Phil Thompson in 1981 created lasting animosity between the two Liverpool legends. Thompson felt Souness had effectively stolen the armband and even accused him of manoeuvring behind his back. Their relationship deteriorated to the point that Thompson refused to speak to Souness for weeks and made crude remarks about his personal life. It was just the first of many bridges Souness would burn throughout his football journey. When Souness moved into management, his combative nature only intensified. At Rangers, he revolutionised Scottish football, but did so with an iron fist. He imposed rigid discipline that created tension with established players, though his success initially protected him from serious backlash. The real problems began when he took over at Liverpool in 1991. His harsh methods alienated senior players, and his transfer decisions proved disastrous. But the final nail in his Anfield coffin was a catastrophic media misstep, giving an exclusive interview to the Sun newspaper on the anniversary of the Hillsborough disaster, a publication Liverpool fans had boycotted following their offensive coverage of the tragedy. His management style created what one observer called a somewhat toxic atmosphere in every dressing room he controlled. The pattern repeated at his later clubs, Blackburn and Newcastle, where he fell out with respected players like Andy Cole, Dwight Yorke, Craig Bellamy and Laurent Robert. Former teammate Michael Robinson perhaps put it best, describing Souness as a brilliant but difficult man who was never afraid of telling people what he thought about them. That trait would follow him from the dugout to the television studio. Souness's transition to punditry brought his blunt, confrontational style to a new audience, but it also led to his most notorious public controversies. During the 2010 FIFA World Cup, while working for Ireland's RTI network, Souness made an extremely inappropriate comment on live television. Analysing a match between Ghana and Serbia, he said defender Nemanja Vidic had been taken apart by striker Fernando Torres in a past game. The offensive analogy drew immediate condemnation. RTA promptly censored Souness's comment and issued a public apology as soon as they cut to a commercial break. The incident became a major talking point of that World Cup's coverage, making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Advocacy groups criticised the casual use of such a term, noting it was inappropriate and offensive in a football context. Yet even this embarrassing episode didn't temper Souness's approach. If anything, his punditry became more combative in the following years. Nothing demonstrates Souness's stubborn, uncompromising nature better than his years-long criticism of Paul Pogba. Since Pogba's record returned to Manchester United in 2016, Souness singled him out repeatedly on Sky Sports and in print, often with scathing assessments. He questioned Pogba's attitude, work rate, and consistency, branding him as selfish and lazy. Souness frequently frequently argued that Pogba failed to earn his right to be called a top player in the Premier League. He criticised everything from Pogba's defensive contribution to his haircuts and social media presence. This relentless scrutiny eventually drew a response from the player himself. In April 2020, Pogba shrugged off Souness's criticisms with a hint of sarcasm, claiming, "I didn't even know who he was, really. I heard he was a great player and stuff. I know the face, but not the name." This dismissive remark went viral, seen as a dig at the Liverpool legend's relevance to younger generations. Souness couldn't resist responding. When confronted with Pogba's comments during a broadcast, he challenged Pogba to put your medals on the table before wryly adding, "And I've got a big table." It was a clear message that Souness felt his criticism was backed by experience and success at the highest level. Later, Souness insisted his punditry was never personal. He rejected accusations that his criticism was driven by any vendetta or by the Liverpool-Manchester United rivalry. "I'm paid to offer an opinion. I don't have a vendetta against anyone at all. There is absolutely no agenda against anyone," he claimed. In his view, he was entitled to have an opinion after 50 years in the game. When Pogba eventually left United on a free transfer in 2022, after what many considered an underwhelming spell, Souness felt vindicated. "I was 100% right about Paul Pogba," he declared, suggesting the midfielder never lived up to the hype. Even today, in his 70s, Souness continues to operate with the same uncompromising approach. His recent criticism of Manchester United's direction, from Ferguson's role being cut to questionable transfers, follows the exact same pattern we've seen throughout his career. While other former players have softened their approach with age, Souness remains just as combative, just as blunt, and just as controversial as ever. His recent media outbursts about United's ownership and players like Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro show a man who simply cannot change his spots. These media meltdowns aren't just isolated incidents. They reflect a consistent character trait that has defined all phases of Souness's life. From the pitch to the dugout to the television studio, his confrontational nature has remained remarkably consistent for over 5 decades. Souness sees himself as a truth-teller in a world full of yes-men, someone brave enough to say what others won't. His supporters value his honesty and straightforwardness in an era where many pundits play it safe. His distinguished playing career gives weight to his opinions. 3 European Cups and multiple league titles aren't to be sniffed at. But his critics see something different, a bully whose abrasiveness creates more chaos than clarity, a man whose confrontational nature has burned countless bridges and whose inflexibility has prevented him from evolving with the modern game. What do you think? Is Graeme Souness a misunderstood football purist who simply demands the highest standards? Or is he a dinosaur whose inability to adapt has made him increasingly irrelevant? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more football content. One thing's certain, at 71 years old, don't expect Graeme Souness to change anytime soon. His shocking media meltdowns will likely continue until the day he puts down the microphone for good.